The hour is well spent. I won't take a long time to speak to you, but I will say a few words here today. I want to thank, first of all, Pastor Billy and the First Lady of this wonderful house that God has built. And I want to thank, of course, the Frederick Douglass Society and all of its officers and members for being here, and friends of mine from Port Huron and places beyond that have come to share with us today. And you've heard fantastic testimonies and stories. And so I, again, will not take a long time to speak with you, but I will take just a few minutes, hopefully share something with you that you can take home and will help you along your way. Remember these words, friends. When we fail to understand something's purpose, abuse is inevitable. When you fail to understand something's purpose, abuse is inevitable. What we see in our country and our communities today are people who do not understand the purpose of why they are there. Young people don't understand their purpose. So many of them today are committing suicide. They're losing their lives. They're taking their own lives. And then our young men are taking the lives of other young men. The most dangerous thing to a black young man in America today is another black young man. Purpose. We have lost our way. If our ancestors, if our grandparents, great-grandparents were to return here today and see the type things that we support, see the type things that we endorse, see the type things that we allow to go on even in our homes, they would think that we had lost our minds, and they surely think that we had lost our way. It's time for us to turn back to the core values. There's nothing wrong with old school values. Down where I'm from in Louisiana and up this way, I don't know if y'all still do it, but there's nothing wrong with saying yes, sir, and no, ma'am. Oh, I know that's old-fashioned. I know that's outdated, but there was some value in that. There was purpose in that. It taught you respect. Young people today, you look at them as they walk up and down the roads, there's no respect. I didn't know what type of audience I would have here today, but since there's an audience of young people here today, it is important for me to say to you young people, respect is not something that is given to you. Respect is something that you must earn. Too many of our young people think that they should get that. No, that's something you must earn. Daddy earned it. How did Daddy earn it? Daddy earned it by getting up, going to work every day, bringing home a paycheck at the end of the week. You want to be a man, young men? And let me tell us mothers and fathers something. We're either raising somebody's dream or we're raising somebody's nightmare. A lot of light nightmares walking around on the streets of Chicago. But my friends, how can a young black man value life outside the womb when we're killing life inside the womb? There's no way that you can value that. Within the year of 2008, and I want you to hear me, friends, please. More black babies in the state of New York City were killed within their mother's womb than were born. I'm going to say that again. More black babies in the state of New York in the year 2008 were aborted than were born. When you fail to understand something's purpose, abuse is inevitable. The government is abusing all of us now. Has been for years. The family, especially the black family, is in turmoil. And we see self-abuse. But here in Juneteenth, 148 years down the road, took 2 years for the slaves in Texas to understand that they were free. But here we are, the descendants of those slaves, and so many of us still don't know that we are free. You're free now, you got to act like it. The shackles are off, but now you got to act like you're free. What's wrong with us, somebody asked. I tell you what it is, it's tribalism. Oh, he always gets quiet when I say that. You see, it's because we have this groupthink mentality. And whenever one of us want to try something different, talking to black folks now, whenever one of us want to try something different than what's happening in the system, the rest of us say, well, now you shouldn't do that because masters say that if we don't stick together, we can't get what we want. But friends, what I have found is that the slave did not really want freedom. The slave desired comfort. He wanted more food in his bowl. He wanted a softer floor or a softer mat to lay on. He wanted the roof to be patched on his home so the rain didn't fall in it. And he was willing to put up with what he had to put up with as long as he had some comfort. And that's the game they're playing on you right now. You know what condition you're in. You know how bad things are in this community. You walk around in it. But how do they keep you there? They promise you, well, we'll take care of a little bit of something. So we stay in the same old rut. Here today I came to tell you that you can be free. You can be free. But what would happen to the runaway slave when he was telling that message to others locked on that plantation? He said, I'm running away from here. You know what would happen after he did that? Somebody would go to the big house and say, Bryant is causing problems. And if you don't say something or do something about him, he may cause an uprising on this place. Well, I have come to tell you that it is high time that each and every one of us have the mentality that we are going to have an all-out uprising in America and escape the slave mentality and the shackles of that plantation. It is time for us once again to be free in this country. My friends, black pride is a good thing, but black pride is not the thing that is liberating. My parents did not toil for the sake of me having black pride. They toiled so I could have some dignity. They toiled so I could have some respect that I would earn myself when I walk down the street. The content of my character, King wanted us all to understand, was not what we came and took off the table, Any fool can pick up something and take it off the table that somebody else done put there. But it takes character. It takes dignity. It takes self-worth to bring something to the table so everybody can enjoy the fruit of your labor. There's a certain respect in that we have lost. The rights of a free man. What has happened to our quest to be free? So many times now we are questing and looking like that we want to be victims. Our story is a story of survival. And black folks, we need to tell our story. It is a story of survival, but what we need is a story of success. You want to do more with your life in this world than just survive. You want to thrive. But when I look at Detroit, let me tell you something about Detroit. Before 1965, 61, that era, Detroit, where you live, Detroit, was the most prosperous city on earth. Hear me well. Detroit, Flint, Pontiac was the most prosperous area on the face of the earth. It was the heartbeat of America. In fact, that's where Chevy gets that motto. The Motor City not only meant that they made motors here, but it was the heartbeat of America. Black folks in 1961 in Detroit were the most prosperous ethnic group in the country. Black folks from the South would come up here to Detroit. We think all y'all was rich. We couldn't figure out how y'all lived in this cold weather, but y'all was rich. What has happened? There was a certain mindset back then. A certain mindset of what I'm going to bring home to my children. You see, but something changed. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest lies that has really changed our culture. And that is the lie of, what are you going? Don't forget where you come from. That's a mindset that keeps you thinking about where you came from. Where you came from was captivity. Where you came from was slavery. Where you came from was from the master's place. And master didn't want you loving that woman that I'm cheering. Master wanted you to love him. They tell you don't forget to give something back to your community. But they never tell you don't forget to give something to your family and the children, that wife and the kids, your home. They have captured you and betrayed you. They have told you that it takes a village to raise a child. That's a lie too. It takes a mama and a daddy to raise a child. Because, my friends, there was a time when, yes, the neighbor could tell me to get out the tree, and if I didn't, she'd whoop me. That was a village back then. Yeah, it was. But nowadays, there are people in the village you don't want near your children. It takes mama and daddy to raise a child. And so, what have we gotten for our dedication to one particular mindset over 50, 60 years? I tell you what we've gotten, black folks. We have been ignored by one party and we're taken for granted by another one. And neither way, that's not optimal for us. We are ignored by one group and taken for granted by another. How do we break that cycle? We must become unpredictable again. People, when they're able to predict how you gonna do, when they're able to predict how and what you're going to say, then they truly got you in bondage. But today I come to share with you the idea that bondage can be broken, because so many times we have been locked up, Reverend Billy, in the religiosity of the day. But can I tell you something? Religious folks kill Christ. It was the religious folks who crucified him because he dared to challenge their way of thinking. They had the people sewed up, locked up, and when he came and started turning over their hustle that they had to get rid of it. I know some of you were uncomfortable with the rap. My age, I'm really not that much into it at all, but he's revolutionary. And let me tell you something. I was looking at the young people before he got up, and they were doing that. But once he got up, they woke up. What is happening to the church today? Pastor Billy, I speak with young atheists around this country. And I want to share this with you. I've shared this on a couple of nights in other places here in the state this week. I ask these young atheists, I ask these young people who don't believe in God. You know, most of them, young lady, they come out of the church. They just didn't all of a sudden say, they came out of the church. And I asked them, well, what happened? How come you don't believe in God no more? Do you know what they tell me, grown folks? They say at least the world's message remains constant. Sin is sin in the world. They like it all the time. But in the church, and know what else they say? They say in the world, folk get along even in their sin. But in the church, there are some that say abortion's wrong. But you can go across the street to that church, and they say it's okay. In some churches, you have a choir director who is real gay. And you go across to another church, and they say that's wrong. So their problem, their dilemma is, who's right? So at least in the world, they find something that's consistent, something they can believe in. My folks, here today, there is something that we must understand and something that we must continue to believe in. I'm reminded of a story of Jesus in that 5th chapter of Mark. He had traveled over to the coast of Gennesaret. And in that coast, he ran into a young man who lived in a graveyard, lived among the tombs. He had lost his mind. They even tried to shackle him, but He'd break the shackles. Crazy folks are strong. He'd break the shackles. And he saw Jesus coming. Or at least the spirit that was in him saw Jesus coming. And he said, have you come to torture me before it's time? And Jesus asked him a question. What is your name? And I want you to get this, because he asked this one person what his name was, but this was the answer of that one person. He said, my name is Legion, for we are many. Friends, the things that are ailing our communities today is not just one problem. It is a legion problem. There is a mass, a cancerous mass that is growing on our communities across this country, but we must decide within ourselves that with one voice we are going to stand together and drive out this poison and this evil from among us. Take our nation back. Legion inside of this man said, listen, don't send us into darkness. Don't let us leave. If you read that 5th chapter, you'll find that it says, don't drive us out of this country. Don't drive us out of this area. That tells me something. Satan has staked out territory. And he don't mind if one person gets saved. He don't mind if a couple of y'all get saved. But what he don't want is an earth-shaking Holy Ghost revival to break out all over the place. That's what we need in this country. We need a Holy Ghost, earth-shaking, mouth-slobbering, snot-slanging revival to break out. Once again, in America. As I head toward a close here, they went into the pigs. They went into the pigs. Y'all know pig eat anything. The spirit, sometimes when it leaves you, you get saved. But you came out of a herd of swine. And what that spirit is doing, and you're seeing it happen now, it's driving those who are still lost the same way it drove these pigs. Drove them down a cliff, over that cliff, and it just drowned them. Our communities, our children are drowning even today. And so many times preachers have stopped preaching the gospel. We've turned toward gimmicks. And then the buzzards show up to claim those things that we abandoned. There are lost souls out there. My friends, I hope that something I said today will motivate you and inspire you to try your own wings, to at least try something different, because black folks, we've been mad for 60 years. We was mad 60 years ago because we didn't have no jobs, we didn't have no opportunity, didn't have education. And guess what? We're still mad today. It tells me something, that at least maybe we ought to try something different. Maybe we ought to look at this thing a little bit differently. Because a great mind once said to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result is insanity. There are difficult days ahead of us now. Difficult days in America. But I'm glad to be in this land because even during slavery, there were some men, some old white men, who wrote these words that you are endowed by your Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among them is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It took about 100 years after those words were written for slaves to be free. But let me tell you something. God always has a plan for his people who are crying out to him. And our grandfathers, our grandmothers, even in their bondage, they knew that one day a better day would come. And when they wrote those words, that all men are created equal, they guaranteed that one day we would sit here in this place as fellow Americans. And so the secret to America is found in its symbol, the symbol of the eagle. The eagle many times will land on the ground and associate with other eagles, but I encourage all of you today to take example from that great symbol of America, the eagle. Because the eagle is an individualist type of animal. The eagle, he may every once in a while gather with other eagles as we're gathering today, but when that eagle takes up off the ground and starts flapping its wings, he soars above the storm, he soars above the clouds, and the eagle soars all by himself. The Bible tells us that sometimes while we're making that climb, we'll get weary. Sometimes while making that climb, we won't be able to feel our strength. But Isaiah tells us in that 40th chapter that they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They gonna mount up with wings as on eagles. And I want to tell you, the running sometimes get tired, but they that wait upon the Lord, you'll renew your strength. I don't know about you, but I got to leave you now. But I just need to know one thing. Is there anybody here that know God will make a way out of no way? Today, my friends, is still yet a great American day. Still a day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad.